Warm greetings from the high 10. This is Everyday Shenanigans, and thanks for joining me. This is live number 2. This is the Crime Vault, an extension of Everyday Shenanigans. Today I saw something very disturbing in the YouTube queue pertaining to a creator. Allegations from someone's own personal opinion of that person. And then this evening, just not even a few minutes ago, I saw something else in the YouTube queue that's very sickening to me. And somewhere in this universe, social media has gotten out of control. The one thing people need to understand about people is that they are just that. They are human beings. They are flawed. They make mistakes. They're snotty, rude, obnoxious, vain, stuck up, narcissistic, and even diabolical. And the thing that people need to understand about what has become Snapchat, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and other platforms, wherever they exist, is that these are random people who have become recognized for doing something, saying something, talking about something, singing, dancing, giving commentary on a said subject matter. But the point is, you don't know them. You don't know anything about them. And you become immersed into their daily existence and their commentary and their attitudes and their dispositions. But in the end, you do not know them. And one thing about a YouTuber is that he or she once sat in the comment box. Listen to me very carefully. The YouTuber was once a commenter. And that is where the distortion lies. It's that he or she has stepped out of the comment box, uploaded content, alleged content, depending on your perception, on their own given name, username, to YouTube. And somewhere down the line, they decide to put a bid in for a partnership with YouTube. And then they wait for a response after having 1,000 subscribers. And then they have become a YouTuber once they have been accepted by YouTube. And then the party begins. And what starts out as possibly a nice courtship between the commenters and the tuber, it can go terribly wrong depending on what the YouTuber is saying. One day you like him or her, the next day you do not. One day you favor him or her, you do not. And God forbid for a YouTuber to want to decide to go into the belly of the beast and merge with another YouTuber. And then that can become also problematic and also a serious and dire situation. I have seen the worst of man on Facebook when I came to YouTube 2.5 years or so ago by covering the Camille McKinney case. And I realized how diabolical people are and how thirsty people are for attention. The need to be seen, the need to be heard, the need to be validated, the need to be first in line. And I didn't think of YouTube in that way because I only watched YouTube for decorating videos. That is how I came to YouTube many years ago after my mother passed away. I only watched the decorating videos and some music content. I didn't watch YouTubers per se. Maybe I didn't have the need. But periodically I check in and see what someone was talking about. And mainly it was about famous people, their opinions of what they were doing and things they had been into allegedly. I'm bringing you this content because I think it's viable to what is going on in the YouTube streets, as some people would call it. It is out of control, and it's sickening to me that some of you have lost your way and you really don't know where the hell you're going. And you have forgotten that you are a random person. You are a random person who's been given a title. But know that you keep messing around, the title can be taken from you. Because in the end, it is just a title. YouTuber. This information came in my queue tonight, and I thought it was only befitting because the Crime Vault is an extension of my channel to bring you true crime that has happened here in America and abroad. And how befitting to start the week off with a story, a true story, about a YouTube situation, YouTuber that went horribly, horribly wrong. You don't know people. And I realize more and more sitting up here in this box that people are gravely ill and they have no business on a social media platform and maybe even possibly walking around dealing with regular people. Because when you have taken the platform to the level of doing malicious things in front of the camera and behind the camera, then you have lost your way and you need help. And there's all types of malicious things one can do. They can do it to the fans. They can do it to other YouTubers. They can meddle into personal business that doesn't belong to them and is not of their concern. Or they can commit said crimes outside of YouTube, which can lead them to penitentiary and or death. Thank you for joining me. This is the story of Samantha Wolford, who was found guilty of killing her husband. Expiring YouTuber recruits 3 men to kidnap and murder her husband. Samantha Wolford and Ernie Ibarra's marriage was on the rocks when he was attacked and shot to death. Uploaded the 25th April, 2021. Those who knew Samantha Wolford said she wanted to be famous. She had her own YouTube channel and dreamed of being an actress. The only thing she ever be famous for, however, was the kidnapping and murder of her husband, Ernie Ibarra. Ernie Lee Ibarra Jr. was born on Christmas 1985 in Mount Pleasant, Texas. He was kind of a bookworm, Sister Abigail Ibarra told Snap. By high school, computers replaced books. Ernie was an avid gamer and able to perform his own computer repairs. Then in 2008, Ernie met Samantha Wolford at a local tattoo shop, and the pair began dating. They were like soulmates, her sister Natasha Willoughby told producers. Samantha Nicole Wolford was born in 1989, the oldest of 3 children. She had a pair of twins with her high school boyfriend when she was 19, and in 2011, she was with Ibarra and became pregnant again, producing another set of twins. A 5th child arrived in 2013 when Samantha was 24. Ernie was now working 2 jobs to support the family of 7, running bat, manufacturing machines for Tibet, and working nights at a Little Caesars Pizza. Believing it would generate extra income, Samantha started a YouTube channel. Her videos discussed her passions, her personal life struggles of being a young mother of 5. She felt like this was going somewhere. She kind of started paying less attention to her kids and acted like her so-called job was more important than that, Abigail told Snap. She wanted to be internet famous. My brother didn't like that kind of thing. The couple also fought over Ernie's all-consuming gaming habits, especially after his online avatar married a female gamer's character. To make amends, Ernie agreed to marry Samantha in 2014. The marriage wouldn't last long, though. In the early morning hours of February 20th, 2015, Rosie Wohlford, Samantha's mother, received a frantic phone call from Samantha. She said there were intruders and apparently they had kidnapped him, Ernie. I finally managed to hear her saying, "I'm tied up, and now I'm really freaking out. I've never been so scared in my life," Rosie told Snapped. Rosie called her sister Ginger Kesterson, who lived nearby, and drove over to the home. She found Samantha upstairs. She was gagged with her hands tied behind her back and her feet tied, according to court documents. Officers from the Titus County Sheriff's Department soon arrived on the scene. As authorities searched the home, they noticed no valuables were taken. The front door lay in pieces and there were signs of a physical struggle. There is some blood on the wall, which probably happened during a scuffle. Right by the door was a lock of hair. Former Titus County Sheriff's first responder Chris Durant told producers. Samantha was brought in for questioning. She claimed she and Ernie were asleep when intruders entered their bedroom. I remember sometime it was a little after 1 a.m., someone jerking the blankets down, which startled me, Samantha is seen telling investigators in the video of her interview obtained by Snap. Samantha said one of the attackers held a knife to her throat while Ernie was dragged downstairs and beaten. Afterward, they brought her downstairs as well. They had me on my knees, forcing him to look at me. It was like they were using me like some kind of taunting factor, and they were punching him in the face with a gun. Samantha is seen tearfully telling detectives in the footage. Samantha said Ernie was removed from the home while she was taken upstairs and bound and gagged. After the intruders left, she wiggled over to her phone and dialed her mother's number with her nose. She claimed the assailants were wearing masks that covered their entire faces and baggy black clothes. Investigators did a trace on Ernie's phone and found 3:20 a.m. got a ping in nearby Pittsburgh, Texas. However, they were unable to locate him and the signal later went dead. Detectives also soon learned Samantha had called the police on Ernie in 2014, alleging that he had attacked her. Ernie was brought in for questioning and he was ultimately arrested, Prosecutor David Cawley told producers. As a part of that arrest, an emergency magistrate's protective order was issued against him. Ernie's family is adamant the allegations against him were false. Samantha, meanwhile, claimed their domestic problems were a thing of the past. She really painted a pretty rosy picture, Titus County Sheriff's investigator Wayne Miner told producers. Investigators asked her about the events of the day leading up to the attack. She claimed she was at the hospital visiting a friend who was having a baby. In the middle of the interview, Samantha had an epiphany, according to Cawley, telling investigators, "There's this guy I met yesterday. His name's Johnny Reb. He could have done it." Samantha claimed she met Johnny at the hospital and had loaned him her car to drive their friend home from the hospital. She had told him about Ernie's alleged abuse, to which Johnny took umbrage. He said he would take exception to someone hitting a woman or something like that, and that he kind of offered to somehow intervene in her situation, Miner told Snap. Authorities learned Johnny Reb's real name was Jonathan Kyle Sanford and that the 25-year-old had recently been released from prison. Samantha said he had just texted her from the hospital and detectives rushed there to catch him. Apprehended with Sanford was his brother-in-law, Jose Antonio Ponce, 26. Both men were charged with aggravated kidnapping, local ABC affiliate KLTV reported at the time. Sanford said he had met Samantha days earlier at the hospital through his girlfriend, Charlotte Kemp, who had just given birth. Samantha told him about Ernie's alleged abuse, and Sanford told her he could take a bar out of the picture, according to court documents. To help him, Sanford recruited Ponce and another friend, Octavius Lamar Rhymes, 28. They originally intended to plant methamphetamine in Ernie's truck and set him up for a drug bust, according to court documents. On the night of February 19th, Sanford, Rhymes, Samantha, and her children drove in her vehicle to buy methamphetamine from Rhymes' cousin. At some point, they decided murdering Ernie would be easier. On the way to the murder, Sanford, Rhymes, and Ponce smoked the meth they had bought. After beating Ernie, they drove him to a remote area in neighboring Camp County, Texas, where Ponce shot him in the back of the head. They had hit him in the head multiple times with the pistol. They had hit him across the face with it. They had punched him. But death came from being shot in the back of the head, Cawley told Snap. Sanford would help investigators locate and retrieve Ernie Ibarra's body. Sanford and Ponce's charges were subsequently upgraded to include murder. Authorities then found text messages Samantha sent Rhymes while police were trying to trace Ernie's phone. They read, "Kill Ernie's phone. Shut that SHIT down. Ditch phone. Move," according to court documents. Samantha Wolford was arrested and charged with aggravated kidnapping and murder. Octavius Rhymes was apprehended and charged similarly on February 26, 2015. Local CBS affiliate KYTX reported at the time. Jonathan Sanford and Jose Ponce pleaded guilty in April 2016 and were each sentenced to 50 years in prison, KLTV reported. In December of that year, Octavius Rhymes went to trial and was found guilty on all counts, receiving a combined 93 years prison sentence. Samantha Wolford went on trial for the murder of her husband, Ernie Ibarra, in September 2017. She was found guilty and received a 99-year prison sentence to be served consecutively with a 50-year sentence for kidnapping. If you want to get a reference pertaining to this case, it has aired on Snap, an episode of Snap on the Oxygen Network. Crime Time is your destination for true crime stories from around the world, breaking crime news and information about Oxygen's original true crime shows and documentaries. And you can look for this said article that is in the search engine of Google. It's Oxygen True Crime, aspiring YouTuber recruits 3 men to kidnap and murder husband. This is the story of Samantha Wolford, an aspiring YouTuber who lost her way and decided that YouTube was more important than taking care of her children and being a wife. And she hired some men. One appears to be African American and Hispanic. And in the end, they all went down for the murder of Mr. Ibarra. One could say, why did he stay? Why didn't he leave her when he saw the signs that she was not wanting to be attentive to his needs, his children's needs? Then one could say, was he an avid gamer and not paying attention to her? Who's to say? He also has a domestic charge that his family denies that he was an abuser. What is the truth pertaining to this couple? But in the end, who's going to tell the truth? One's dead, and one is now currently incarcerated for his death. YouTube is an illusion, like all social media platforms, and everything is about perception. And I brought you this story for a reason. You know that everything that I do is meticulous. Everything I do is meticulous. There is a reason for the season. This story is appropriate to show you that you do not know people, and that the commenter in the box can become a YouTuber, and then the YouTuber can become the headline story.
When an aspiring YouTube star marries a brooding gamer, they prove that opposites do attract.
I am the biggest streamer ever. I'm very free-spirited. He was the calm, tame stuff that she needed, and she was just the right amount of fun and crazy that he needed. They were like soulmates.
After becoming parents to 2 sets of twins, this young Texas couple seemed like a reality show in the making. Until their home turned into a real-life nightmare.
She was crying, and through the crying, trying to say that somebody had kidnapped her husband.
I can hear her, and at that point, I start hearing Pat.
As the investigation begins, a dangerous conspiracy fueled by an unquenchable thirst is discovered.
So much of her behavior was attention-seeking.
She said, I can make anybody believe anything. I'm an actress.
When the truth is revealed, this once idyllic family will land in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons.
They had hit him in the head multiple times with the pistol. They had hit him across the face with it. They had punched him.
She said, I am really freaking out. I've never been so scared in my life.
February 20th, 2015. It's just after 2 a.m. in Titus County, Texas, as Rosie Wohlford is wrapping up a fun night on the town with her daughter, Natasha.
We were having a karaoke night. We had walked out of the club, and we were standing outside talking to the owner when my phone started ringing.
Rosie answers the call from her oldest daughter, 26-year-old Samantha Wolford.
It was muffled and not clear. I finally get to the point where I can hear her, and at that point, I start hearing
panicked.
My mom just looked horrified, and I'm like, what's the matter? She's like, your sister. She said, all I know is something about they took him. And I was like, what's the matter? She's like, I can't understand her.
Through her daughter's muffled cries, Rosie begins to understand that Samantha is talking about her husband, 29-year-old Bernie Ibarra.
She said there was intruders, and apparently they have kidnapped him. I finally managed to hear her say, I'm tied up. And now I'm really freaking out. I've never been so scared in my life.
Samantha didn't pull the trigger, so she didn't commit the murder itself, but she is guilty as a party or as an accomplice. And so the effort in trial is to show the jury all the facts that they need to see so that they understand that she aided, helped, or did something else to make this murder happen, that she wanted it to happen and that she took steps to make it happen. And so basically in this situation, we just need to tell the jury the story, the chronological story of what happened, how she convinced, how she told person after person that her husband was abusive to her, and how when she found somebody who would do something about it, they concocted a plan, they changed it to another plan, and then she helped that plan happen. And that plan resulted in her husband's death. In Samantha's two trials, she testified in her aggravated kidnapping trial in Titus County. The position she tried to take there was that she had taken an Ambien before she went to bed and didn't really remember any of the events and didn't remember sending any text messages. That's just unbelievable whenever you have all of that document evidence that completely ties her to it. And you have law enforcement's body-worn cameras, and the jury is seeing how she acts. They're seeing the fake hysteria, that stuff that we know in our daily lives when somebody's not being straight with us and when they are. And so the jury was able to look at that and basically disbelieve her testimony. She was convicted in Titus County on the aggravated kidnapping charge. And then she was convicted in Camp County on the murder charge. And in the way those cases were set up, the judge had the discretion to make those sentences run concurrently or to stack them on top of each other. I think that, this situation where somebody's, kidnapped, pulled out of bed, beaten, taken off in the middle of the night and executed, that's almost as bad as it gets. And I think that the verdicts that she got and that the fact that the judge stacked them on top of each other are exactly what she deserved.
When Ernie came into my life, he was, I'm guessing, around 14 years old. He and his sister, Tiffany. He was a very active child, very smart, very intelligent. Loved to read, and he made very good grades in school. You could tell his life was headed down the road of technical. He loved to mess around with computers, period. He could tear one apart, put it right back together, and make this thing work. He was like that with pretty much any type of a computer or monitor or whatever it was that had to do with a computer. He was very, very good at it. His first little job, I guess you could say, I worked for a pipeline company, and we needed internet out there, and the trailers that all the offices were in, he ran a computer system for it all. And it only took him probably, I'd say, 2 days, and he made him a pretty good fat check. He was very proud of that. And I would say he was I was 18 probably at the time when he did that. He was very, very smart, very gifted, very talented. He was a son that I never had, I guess you could say. I feel like that he would have made something and been something. One of these days, he would have been something very important. You try to move on, you try to forget about it, but it's still there. It doesn't go away. And I wonder to this day what kind of man he would be, what kind of father he would be. It's very difficult to have to ever have something like this to happen to somebody. You never forget. You deal with it day by day. Some days are harder than others. I have to say I do have comfort in my heart knowing his father's there with him. You know. To me, before his father passed, that it was a bother to me knowing that he was there by himself. I felt like that when his father got sick, something was telling me that he had to go to be with his son. And I honestly feel like that's why his dad he passed. He wanted to be with his son.
Two pled guilty to 50 years for the murder, 50 years for the kidnapping, I believe, and those run concurrent. That was Jonathan Sanford and Jose Pons. The two that tried to go to trial and roll the dice on that were Octavius Rhymes and Samantha Wolford.
She ended up with 100 and something years cumulative between the cases. And then Rhymes, I think he was right along in there too, with almost 100 years. So I'm like, at least at that point, you know that she's not going to be able to get out and do this to anybody else.
Well, I remember before they read the verdict, my daughters, each one was on each side. And I just remember grasping their hands and us holding our heads down, saying a silent prayer, saying guilty, 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 you know. And when they read the verdict of her being guilty, I think both my girls were like, yes, you know. Even though you're supposed to be silent, it was kind of hard to hold back any words.
When each of those four verdicts on Samantha, the two on Samantha's case and Octavius Rhymes' case came back, you know, the family, Ernie's family was right there behind me. They're listening for it. And just knowing that they felt some sort of justice having happened from those verdicts is just super satisfying, and you know, and made me, you know, proud for what I had done, proud for what law enforcement had done, and how hard they had worked to put such a solid case together.
In this case, he was a true victim. He was doing everything he possibly could. He was working 2 jobs, doing everything he could to provide for his family and his kids. I felt like he tried to do everything he could to provide a safe home, vehicles, clothing. He did everything that I would feel like a person would do to try to provide a good, loving home for them. Unfortunately, he just married a black widow that came along and ultimately took everything he had and took his life too.
I want my brother to be remembered for who he was. A loving father, a loving husband, a hard worker, and, just an all-around decent human being. I don't want him to be remembered for the lies and, excuses she gave for doing what she did to him.
I just want everybody to know that, they may miss him, but we miss him too. We miss her, we miss him, their kids. I'm sure,
this is her brother speaking.
Them every day. Their kids got their parents taken away from them. Their whole world turned upside down in one night.
We did everything we could to try to protect those kids.
This is her mother,
keep them out
Rosie.
Because they lost both their parents the same day, basically. And none of that mattered to me at that point. I mean, don't get me wrong. I miss my child, and I miss my son-in-law. And I wish every day that there was a way that time could be turned back and this could have been prevented. But even though he's gone and she's gone, my life has to revolve around those 5 kids, because their whole world got turned upside down that day. They literally lost both their parents, and I'm all they had. So, of course I'm going to take him. I got him that night before I left there. And I never left there. When I left there with those children in my possession. And I would have never left there without it. I would have stayed there. I'd stayed there till hell froze over. Those kids was going to be in my care.
That's the said information. If you need verification for this information, this commentary aired on the Oxygen Network from an episode of Snapped. This is pertaining to Samantha Wolford, who was found guilty for murdering her husband, Ernie Ibarra. Samantha Wolford was arrested and charged with aggravated kidnapping and murder. Octavius Rhymes was apprehended and charged similarly on February 26, 2015. Jonathan Sanford and Jose Ponce pleaded guilty in April 2016 and were each sentenced to 50 years in prison. December of that year, Octavius Rhymes went to trial and was found guilty on all counts of a combined 93-year prison sentence. So the two originals, Sanford, who was the orchestrator, who Ms. Wohlford found at a hospital and moaned and groaned about this horrible husband of hers. And then he solicited Mr. Ponce to help. And then they went and found Mr. Octavius. So we have 3 outside conspirators alongside Ms. Wohlford, combined of 4. She went on trial for the murder of her husband, Ernie Ibarra, in September 2017. She was found guilty and received a 99-year prison sentence to be served consecutively with a 50-year sentence for kidnapping. So even if she lived past her youthful days, she had to do 99 years originally, and then an extra 50 years for kidnapping. I brought you this story for a reason. Because, as I said to you, social media is an illusion. You can be whoever you want in front of the camera and behind the camera. Nobody has to know what you really feel inside and who you are and what you're about, your true disposition, your woes, your highs, your lows. And we have come to learn there have been many people who have passed away as YouTubers in the past year. Some have gone on to jail, penitentiary, and even death. The gist of the story is you don't know people. And it's sad that, as I said, the person is once a commenter in the box. And then the commenter becomes a YouTuber by acceptance, of course, partnership with the network. And then the rest is history, how he or she uses their network. And as I said, I saw some things in the queue that were very disparaging to the spirit, utter nonsense. And the sad thing is, at one point, people have put their faith in these said YouTubers who have decided that they don't want to play fair and want to become ignorant on a daily basis. And we're all entitled to our opinion of people. We're all entitled to have a bad day. We're all entitled to moan and groan and fuss and cuss. But when it becomes your mantra every day, and you're taking that venom and using it against people on the same network, then that is the problem. And two, when you engage in felonious behavior outside of the box, then that too is another problem. That can be your demise. So everything is a choice. I will not engage. I've had my fair share since coming to the box. And I can honestly say that my first few months into YouTube, when I was not a partner, was very peaceful because I didn't know anyone and nobody knew me. It was just people going through the queue and finding the information and commenting. And that was the extent of it. There was no contact with anyone at all. It wasn't until I covered the case of Camille McKinney is when people had a way and found a way to reach out to me. And naturally, that became a mistake because, as I said, you don't know people. And then as time went on and I began to cover other content, such as Cow City, I realized how sick people are and everyone is not on your team and that you cannot trust people. That today they're okay with you and that tomorrow they have a problem with you. And that's how I feel about the YouTube situation. It's BS. And you don't know people. And if you believe in the scripture, God tells you not to put your faith in man because you will surely be disappointed. And I am a believer and I believe in the word. So I don't put my faith in anybody. I accept you at face value that whatever you give me, then that's what you give me. Nothing more, nothing less. If you want to donate to the channel, $ Big Angie, 129 Cash App. Thank you so much. Thank you all for following the content. This is a very sick story of a woman who lost her way, who possibly became overwhelmed with motherhood. I don't know, because I don't know her personally. But somehow she and this male had problems and they did not jive in the marriage. And she was very young with children. So who knows what was going on with her mentally, physically, raising a lot of children alone. Maybe she felt alone, although she had this partner with her. Or maybe she was just a woman with a lot of children who was diabolical at some point. I don't know if she was evil all her life. I don't know because I don't know her. But I was looking at some information that the Crime Network has also a documentary on this said story, and I will share it to my community page if you'd like to have more information on Samantha Wolford. This is my said commentary. Thank you, Ms. Broomer. Thank you for modding. This is my said commentary. But as I said, you don't know people. And YouTube is just it's just a platform used for various reasons, and everyone's motivations for watching YouTube, commenting, uploading content, if that is what you want to call it, and or attempting to partner with YouTube. Everyone has their reasons for what they do. And maybe how one person started out, it's not how they end. Because sometimes you can intend to be one way, and as old folks would say, get too big for your britches and act a monkey's ass. But that is your choice. Thank you so much. This was Crime Vault, Samantha Wolford. YouTuber gone terribly wrong. Thank you for joining me. This is Everyday Shenanigans.